Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our office hours. As people start coming in here, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen with you based on that. Fantastic. Let's see here. Actually, let me get to it first of all. Disclaimer that we have to share with you from the beginning here. Can you see that okay there, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
All
How's
right.
everybody doing tonight? As you're rolling in, we'd love to hear where you're from, what year your students are, and if they've got any acceptances, feel free to throw those in the chat. Save your Q&A questions for the Q&A, but we'd love to see where you're from and where your students are going in the chat. And I'll kick it back to Dan right now.
Yeah, so just unfortunately, we have to do this nice little reminder, which is this. We're excited that you're here tonight, but please realize this. The answers that we give tonight are not intended to be tax, legal, or investment advice. In those cases, you absolutely need to reach out to a professional in each area before implementing any strategies. And even tonight, we're going to do our best job to answer your questions, but there may be some things that are quite frankly out of our expertise level. Don't be surprised if Chuck and I suddenly come in and say, hey, you really need to schedule a 1-hour consultation with us, which quite frankly could be the best decision you ever made, because really when it comes down to it, because number one, you all need to know that there's a discount that we'll have tonight that you can use, which is OH for office hours 15, that you can use in every single case. That'll end up saving you money. So be sure to use that. And then, of course, there's some other things that we're going to talk about tonight, as well as just putting the ability, if you like the kind of conversations that Chuck and I have tonight, if you'd like to work with either one of us, we'd be happy to talk to you about your circumstances as far as what's going on, and you can schedule that paid meeting with us. Now, if you're lucky enough that you've done an upgrade to your software, meaning you're no longer just on the free platform, but you've decided to upgrade to either the Scholar or the Valedictorian level, specifically with the Valedictorian, not only do you get the software for a year, but you also get a 1-hour consultation with us. So I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second here as we're getting going. And then I will bring up some details here that we can take a look at, Chuck. But hey, let's not forget some big happening tonight, Chuck. Total Buster is happening this evening, which is, if anybody still has any brackets left on the NCAA March Madness, I'd be shocked, wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure. I can see people having UConn as a finalist, but I bet there's not too many San Diego State folks rocking them to the finals. So that's exciting. And I think that's one of the great things about college and college sports and everything that goes with it, and good stuff. Yeah. And I see lots of people coming in. We got Houston. We have Belize. That's a first for me in a few weeks I've been doing this. San Francisco. See a family with 6 kiddos. That's amazing. You guys are saints. Keep it up.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
We have a question. Okay. Oh, we got to go Aztecs. I love it. So I don't know the answer to this. I'm going to have to defer to Dan. Can I use the discount code to renew my annual subscription for next year?
Oh, my. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I've never had anybody ask that, and the whole time we've done it. So don't forget,
to $4.99 a month. But
it does. So it's already a huge discount, and quite frankly, it's less than you would pay with a renewal anyway. So the $4.99 is a much better deal for you. Just think of it this way: that's like buying a Starbucks for a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it looks like, Sharice, if that doesn't answer your question or you're concerned about it, I'd send an email to support@College8Pro and just let them know that Big Dumb Chuck did not know the answer to that.
Neither did Dan.
I'll take the heat for it, and they will reply to you with if that will work or not. I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful on that one. I apologize.
Yeah, but again, I think the $4.99 is really the deal, man. All right, let's do this for a second. Let's hop into showing. I'm going to talk about upgrades, folks. I want you to know that, again, some of you may already have the free software which gives you the access to up to 3 colleges with no cost. It's a fantastic opportunity for you. Just realize once you put the 3 in, the system locks up, and then you're looking at doing an upgrade. So the upgrade is to the Scholar level. It's really a no-brainer if you think that you're going to be looking at multiple colleges, if you're going to be working with your IEC, your independent educational consultant, or your high school counselor. Or, by the way, if you don't have a relationship with either or, and just really need some help, don't forget that you can reach out to us in that capacity too, and we'll help get you connected with experts on both sides of the fence. But for $149 less that discount, remember that discount, OH15, so OH15 will drop it down to $126.65. And if you want to really do it, our associate Peg says this is a no-brainer. which is that you do the valedictorian because you get the software for a full year. And you get a 1 hour meeting with one of our CAP experts. That could be Chuck, that could be me. And that means it goes from $299 with that OH15 down to $254.15. But just a really good way for you to look at that. There's one other option that's out there that we ought to talk about, which is called the white glove. And there's two parts to the white glove. The first part of the white glove is where you would hire us to work with you with all the financial sides of things. And that's helping you with maybe your financial aid forms for sure. Any appeal process, your college funding plan. And again, that price is a little higher. It's $2,999, but again, you get the 15% discount off of that. Or if you don't have a relationship with a independent counselor, because we are definitely trying to pull you away from that. But if you don't and need some help, then one of the things that you can do is that you can work with one of our people, and that could be, by the way, in IEC, that's part of the CAP team, by the way, but that individual could indeed help you with some of the admissions side of things too. So just keep that in mind. We don't promote that often, but we get a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Dan was saying about the valedictorian. What I found this year is a lot of people are taking advantage of those 1 hour meetings. And I would encourage you, the real value of that, if you say you have a junior now, you're building that school list, you're looking at the different costs, you get through filing your financial aid applications, and now it's call it March or April of their senior year, and you want some real input on what kind of awards did I get? Are they fair? Can I get more somehow? If you've used MyCap and uploaded all those award letters into the system, it's going to make it real easy for an expert to come back, give you very good information on how to appeal, maybe even help you structure your letter right there on that 1 hour call. So the value of there is just incredible, and you guys can make it even more valuable by being prepared and completely filling out your profile, having award letters, just different things that really make a good use of your time and minimize your overall costs. I'd just like to reiterate that. And if you ever have any questions about how to be prepared to meet with one of the experts, feel free to throw those in the questions, and we'll definitely take a shot at it.
Yeah, so speaking of questions, Chuck, why don't we go ahead and start answering some things? Let's hop in here.
Sure. On this first one, I'd like to offer professional services to aspiring college applicants, regardless of their financial circumstances, by flexing rates for services based on independent assessment of financial condition. Idea. Can CAP do this for me and the client? If I pay and collect the fee, and I determine that I will not offer a flex rate, is there still added value to the client for having paid just that fee? I'm honest, I'm not sure I understand the question. Is it in regards to the software or additional services you are providing? There's not going to be a chain on this. So if you type into the Q&A again, please reference this question. And Dan, do you think you have an idea of what he's asking?
I really don't. I'm trying to wrap my arms around it based on independent assessments of the financial. Are you basically saying, hey, I'm going to take a look at you based on what your future student aid index amount's going to be, or the projection of your student aid index, or the other part, the family contribution from the institutional side of things, and based on that, you're just going to work with them? But I can tell you're a planner and you're trying to figure this whole thing out. Give us a little bit more detail there to try to help.
Yeah, my career, I work as a financial planner full-time, registered investment advisor. The way I do it is I offer very similar packages to what the CAP folks offer. Our pricing's almost the same. I offer an hourly basis, and I also offer a project basis on the same fee structure. So I don't know if that answers your question or helps at all. All questions should come via Q&A, please. I notice you can't check anonymous anymore. We'll look into that. There has been some instances where on our different webinars, we get 1 or 2 people anonymously asking like 100 questions. We weren't sure if they were using a chat bot or something to fire those off. So it's been temporarily turned off. We apologize for the inconvenience on that, but we want to make it fair to everybody and make sure that everybody has a chance to get questions answered, and that one person can't monopolize all the time. Keep that in mind, and we do want to offer and answer as many as we could, but keep the questions coming via the Q&A, please.
Yeah. All right, let me try this next one here, Chuck. It says, I keep getting mixed messages from various sources about 529s and their effect on the EFC. Are they considered in the EFC? I don't have much in my junior's 529, so it probably wouldn't make a difference anyway, but I'm wondering if I should stop contributing to my freshman's 529. So number one, it depends who the owner of the 529 plan is. And here's what I mean by that. It sounds like in this case, you're talking about a parent-owned 529 plan. And in that case, that asset is considered an asset of the parents, not the child. That's both for the federal methodology and the institutional methodology, which is a good thing, by the way, folks, because what that means is that the money from the federal counts at 5.64%, from the institutional at 6%. Worst case, compared to if that money was considered an asset of the child's, it would count at 20%. Now, the second part of this question is something totally different.
Yeah.
Should you keep contributing to your freshman's 529? Absolutely, you should. Do you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah. So this is a sweet spot for me. And I tell people all the time, you need to save as much as you can in whatever form you can. And a 529 is one of the best. There's always unique circumstances, but there's 216 months from the time a child's born until they go to college. And the average cost of college for over 4 years is about $130,000. That means if you want to cover the entire cost, you got to save almost $500 a month from the time they're born till they leave for college. So do not stop contributing. Save however you can. Your income is going to be a much bigger driver of your FC impact than your savings or a 529 account. Please keep saving and good luck with that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Good answer. All right. When negotiating with the school, can we mention the average non-need merit aid on the website if my child's merit aid offered is significantly lower? So yes and no. Like, I don't think they're going to care that it is coming from College Aid Pro, but you can definitely reference, that their average award is this. You need to also use the MyCap software to understand where your student fits in their incoming statistical in class. Are you in that kind of top 20%, either with test scores or GPA? And if so, then if you got a lower merit aid award, then you might have a very good argument. If you got a lower merit aid award and your student's on that kind of lower 50% or worse on the GPA or test scores, it might not be as good of a tool or appeal. Dan, anything to add there?
No, nothing at all. The bottom line is that you've got to try to do everything that you can in that case. Here's the problem. You cannot use College Aid Pro as a tool to defend what you're doing with the colleges. I wish it were that easy. Maybe one of these days it'll have that much gravity when it comes to these colleges realizing that this information's out there. But right now there's nothing that you can do with that. So
I'd certainly include what the average non-need merit aid award is. By all means, include that, but have some context or narrative around the difference. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to answer something that's over in the queue or in the chat box or chat area for just a second. Please realize, everybody, that because you registered for this event tonight, you're going to get a copy of it. It's going to actually be sent out to you. I see somebody talking about that they're recording the copy of the transcript. But again, that's something that you need to know. Okay, next question. Is it still worth booking the 1-hour session for appeal support with you if I'm only considering large public institutions? There's a whole lot more to that story that we don't. And it really depends on how many different colleges have you applied to. What are you hoping to get from the college? Are you hoping for need-based aid? Additional need-based aid, or are you hoping for additional merit aid? There's no doubt that when you're dealing with the big publics, there's fewer opportunities to negotiate, at least from the merit side for sure. But sometimes need-based is a different story. And it also depends on whether you're in state or out of state. I was working with a family just today where we put together an appeal, and I don't know, I personally think it can't hurt, but just be prepared. We pretty recently, Chuck, we were just talking about this before going live, had one of our associates who successful was able to appeal with Arizona State University, public institution, pretty good sized institution, as a matter of fact, and they were able to get additional money. So sometimes it can indeed work.
Yep. And in that case, just to give a little more context, one of the competing schools was the University of Arizona. So 2 in-state schools, 2 big schools. We know that student was a pretty desirable student from a college perspective. Again, if you want to book an hour with one of the experts, come prepared. Make sure you've got your profile completed in MyCap. Make sure if you've got award letters that you've uploaded them and they're in there so we can have an idea of what we're working with. And to me, the cost to get the expertise is very low in relation to what you could potentially get, but we also don't want to set any false expectations on these huge state institutions. Okay, so this is a follow-up. First, can CAP help me independently assess a family's ability to afford college? Absolutely. So it will calculate the EFC in every version that's out there. So the federal method, the institutional, the consensus, most importantly, the federal and the institutional. If you're an advisor, College Aid Pro offers an advisor version where you can actually let people do some of the due diligence work. My cap is a little bit different on that regard. So there's a subtle difference there, but that would be absolutely a possibility.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, my daughter's waitlisted on for computer science program for multiple UCs, including Irvine, San Diego, Davis, and Berkeley. What are the chances of her getting off the wait list and offered a spot? I have absolutely no idea. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, the admissions part of this is not my strong suit, and I think every school is different, but I'll keep my fingers crossed for your daughter. I know how
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, and let me just say this to you too. You have to understand that with the UC schools, some of these schools had over 100,000 applications submitted. And so when you're looking at the odds, that's, to me, that's probably the biggest thing you've got to go in. I'm hoping and praying that you had more colleges, because I do the admissions process as well as college funding. But I hope you had more colleges on your daughter's list, because it would be a total bummer if you're hoping and praying that one of these schools, which are highly regarded, have a lot of applicants that apply to them. So unfortunately, you're playing the lottery. You really are. So there's no way to know what the chances are. So I wish I could give you a better answer than that. So good luck.
All right. Is it true FAFSA won't be released until December 2023 for 24 or 25 students? Is it true you apply first for ED and EA colleges and later on file FAFSA on December 1st, 2023? Yeah, so basically based on the information that's available to us, that's how I understand it to believe. I think they just recently confirmed that they expect it to be December. I wouldn't bet the house on that, honestly. I think there's a chance it could be later. The initial report was January. So I'd say prepare to be flexible. And then, yeah, you'll do your applications regardless of whether the financial aid applications are available or not. I haven't heard anything, Dan. Have you heard anything on the CSS profile being in parallel, or do you still think that will be as usual?
It's business as usual for them. They're going to open up October the 1st. What you're bringing up here is a major problem. All these colleges that have got early decision and early action deadlines, they often come with expectations that you're going to get your financial aid forms done as close to October the 1st as you can. Some of them may have a little bit later date than that, but folks, they're scrambling. These colleges are scrambling to try to figure out what they're doing. And we're talking about specifically those schools that use both the FAFSA and the CIS profile. So just be prepared. They're still going to have the expectation that the CIS profile is going to be done early enough to meet those deadlines. So it's out there. Unfortunately, the whole date when it comes to the FAFSA is a moving target, because they're scrambling right now trying to get all the programming and things done. And here's the thing, I'm going to caution you about this even now, which is be prepared, because once it goes live, everybody's going to try to get on there and try to get it done. And so the system's likely going to get overloaded and crash, which it does, by the way, it seems like every single year. So give it a little bit of time for them to work through some of the kinks, and also for the volume to go down. You'll still have time to get it finished. It's just going to be a unique year coming up on us here.
And we can certainly sympathize. I'm down in Houston, Texas. A lot of the Texas schools have a December 15th deadline for priority financial aid. And there's no way they're going to be able to deal with that in 15 days for the number of applicants they're getting. So it will definitely be interesting.
Yeah. Okay, this next question. What can a divorced parent do for CS when the other parent is refusing to complete the forms and participate in the child's education funding? Listen, I understand your pain. Over the years, I've been doing this for 17 years now, and I've run into this before. In fact, the worst story I can tell you was that one of my students, the father refused to complete the forms. The student had applied to the University of Chicago, and when they found out that the parent would not complete it, they also canceled out the application. So that's a worst case scenario. Here's what you need to know. There are some colleges out there that will not require what's called the non-custodial parent. Places like UNC Chapel Hill, for example, comes to mind, which is pretty amazing. But what I would suggest that you do is that you actually have to check out that list of colleges and then use that effectively in this type of case. And/or I will also tell you that it might be that you just have to apply to FAFSA only schools in that situation. However, you have to know that the rules of the game are changing when it comes to divorced parents, when it comes to the FAFSA anyway. And it's going to be the parent who provides the most financial benefit to the child or support for the child in the future. So depending upon what your arrangements are with that other parent, it could be a really interesting conversation that's going to need to take place. Any other
I'm
thoughts on that?
looking, I'm about to paste the link for the schools into the chat, or yeah, I'll paste it into the chat for everyone. So if you click on this link and go to the second to last column, it says CSS profile, non-custodial parent, and then you can choose yes or no, meaning do they require it or not require it, or count it or not count it, and that may help a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, now let's see. We were offered small amount of Stafford loan on financial aid in regards to remaining EFC. Where and how do you get started getting with private? So generally people will always start with federal direct student loans. That will be $5,500 typically in the student's name the first year, 65 sophomore, 75 junior and beyond. After that, most schools will also include on their financial aid award parent plus loan, or I guess there's federal direct plus loans. Those are in the parent's name and they come with credit check. So a lot of parents start there and use that interest rate as their bogey to see if they can beat that either on a personal loan from a credit union, a loan. Rhode Island, for example, offers some loans, and you don't have to be a resident of Rhode Island. Juno is an organization that does crowdfunding for students on public loans. So there's a lot of other sources you can find out there, but generally you'll look at the federal direct student loan first, then the parent plus loan will be at a slightly higher interest rate, and you'll want to exhaust all your personal choices to see if you can beat that loan or that interest rate, kind of the terms and conditions of those loans. Dan, do you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is on the bottom of your MyCap account, don't forget that there's guidance on both the federal loans. There's also information down there about private loans where you can go in there and you can look for and even maybe even search for those options. Look, loans need to be your last resort. And if you're getting to that point right now, hopefully you've got some really good options on the table for your students. But the fact is, what you've got to do is, back to what Chuck said, one of the biggest disservices I think colleges do is that they just throw the parent plus loans on those financial aid offers and just assume that you're going to take it and then deal with the consequences of both the interest rate that's charged, which is higher than your student's percentage. And even worse, it's the loan origination fee.
Yeah, the origination.
Oh, I mean, 4.228% is a big number. So do your homework, make sure that you do some research into it. Again, the bottom of the website might be a great place for you to start that search. Okay, my daughter was rejected from USC as a freshman, potentially offered a spot on the other pathway program for computer science for transfer next year as a sophomore. Not sure what to make of this. Is USC counting on having freshman dropouts from the program and planning a year ahead to fill those vacancies? Any thoughts? What you're saying could be true, that there could be students that every single college out there has some attrition that takes place. In other cases, they could do the other thing, which is overpopulate their incoming computer science class. And then classrooms are stuffed and kids are getting forced to take classes when they don't want to take classes and things like that. So the fact that they've even offered her an alternative to get into a school of the caliber of USC is pretty incredible. Now, the key with this is this. You have to remember that what that means is that she cannot be taking college level classes, at least if she's hoping to get some scholarship money there, if they've even offered that. Or if she is, you want to make sure that you do some research with that admissions department as to how they're going to handle that if you're considering her taking some classes in the California Community College program or whatever. So just be careful. But again, at least there's an offer on the table to stay in the California school system right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of this happens in Texas for Texas A&M and University of Texas. The one thing I'll warn you about is when you take the CAP program for UT or the equivalent from A&M, a lot of times it's only offering you a spot into liberal arts and not a guaranteed spot into computer science or business or engineering. Like Dan said, make sure and fully understand what you're getting into with that program, what college or program that you're eligible to transfer into. All right. My son got into Boston U with a direct quote from them, tentative spring semester and the amount of $35,350. The summer award will be identical to the finalized spring award. Out of that amount, $32,600 is part of the BU Scholarship Assurance BU grant. His admission is to begin in spring of 2024. Why is the financial aid tentative and what can we do to make it true? Without seeing the letter, I'm a little not skeptical, a little hesitant to answer this, but my suspicion is that's the award that you would get, assuming you accepted admission to the school and accepted the awards. Not that like he will accept admittance to the school and not get any award. But to verify that, I'd really want to see the letter or something like that. But my suspicion is it's just saying if you go here, this is what you'll get. Dan, do you have any thoughts
No,
on
I
that?
think Chuck, I think you're right on. Anytime you hear tentative can mean a couple of things, right? It could be that the budget for the next year really hasn't been formalized. The other thing is I do think it's directly connected that your student has not even been accepted or has not accepted the offer yet. And once that's done, that then it's locked in for you.
Yeah, a quick call to this sounds like an admissions issue, a quick call to the admissions office and just ask them to clarify. They're not looking to play any games. They'll tell you, yes, if you accept admittance here and make your deposit, you'll get this, or it depends on X, Y, and Z. So a quick call can probably clear that up pretty easily.
No, that's good. Okay, would a college's increased tuition price be considered a circumstance change regarding an appeal? Interesting. I've never had that asked before. What are we talking about? Stanford just did a 7% increase across the board on their stuff. But even with that, it's definitely going to be additional money out of your pocket. Traditionally, when you're looking at an appeal, it's based on any number of circumstances. It's based on your own family finances. It could be expenses that you've had, medical expenses that you've had, things like that. I really do think that it would have to be a significant increase for you to look at that for an appeal. And look, let's face it, here's the other problem that you do face with scholarships. When scholarships are set, they're not projected they don't increase to keep pace with ever increasing cost of college. I guess, again, you could ask the college in that case how they would handle it, but it's likely not the most common thing. Hey, by the way, folks, you're putting questions into the chat box. They really need to be copied and put into the Q&A for us, please.
Do a quick look and see if these are easy to answer on the chat, just so we address them. Some schools offer a waiver for divorced families. Again, that's going to be a school by school basis, but it might be a possibility. Does USC issue a formal financial aid letter? Essentially, every school should give you a formal financial aid letter, an award letter. It may come via portal, it may come via physical mail, or it may be emailed directly to the student. Typically, it will show the cost of attendance and then break out scholarships, grants, loans to some extent, but every school should give you one. If you need to contest any financial aid awards, it's really going to depend on your student and unique situation. Do you have better offers from other schools? Has your financial situation changed? Has your student's situation changed? There's a lot of things that would go into that. It's a case-by-case basis. Got into USC, computer science, national merit. Also got into UT Austin, but no merit scholarship. Yeah, UT does not give a lot of merit scholarships. There's not going to be a lot you can do there. That's just a tough one. My son's application was not accepted due to filled out SR late at A&M, but he really wants to go. What do you think the best route would be? Wait till spring and fly again, or take off fall and go to another school? There's a lot of questions about transfers here, and all I can tell you is transfers can be very expensive. Typically between $15,000 and $30,000 a year to transfer. Typically it will be less if you're using one of the systems schools, but keep in mind there's the explicit costs of moving and different things. But then if you're switching schools or programs and a class doesn't transfer, you may have to take more. Anytime your application was rejected, I definitely call the Office of Admissions directly, plead your case. Sometimes you might need to fall on your sword, ask what you need to do to get the application in this year. If they say there's nothing you can do, then you'll just have to evaluate those other options of going elsewhere, unfortunately.
But one other comment on that too, it says here, which is very true. Scholarships are different as an incoming freshman than they are as far as transfer scholarships. Truly, the only case that I ever see transfer scholarships come into play is if the school, for example, has reciprocity agreements with the community colleges in maybe their state. There could be like a transfer scholarship that exists there, but there's no doubt that you lose out on the bigger incoming freshman scholarships if you don't come in as a freshman to a school.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, that's a huge thing, right? 85% of all financial aid comes from the schools themselves in their first freshman year.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to this other question then. My daughter was accepted to Boston University and Northeastern University. No merit aid was offered. BU wanted her to attend another school and transfer sophomore year. Northeastern offered her to go to Northeastern Oakland and then transfer to Boston. Do you have any suggestions how to attend Boston the freshman year? No,
I'll
go
take
ahead.
a swing at this because I have a little bit of personal experience. So I'm also a volunteer with an organization called Emerge. It helps lower income, high achieving students get into highly selective universities. And I know for a fact that over the last 2 years at Northeastern here in Houston, we have had a high percentage of students asked to do study abroad their first year and then return to Northeastern their second year. And there hasn't been any exceptions to that. Again, these are very high achieving students with high PA, high test scores, and the leverage of a big organization like Emerge behind them. So I don't want to discourage you, but from my personal experience, there hasn't been much leeway on that. I don't know if Dan, if you have any other follow-up thoughts.
The only other thing is just the secondary, which says she was admitted to UMass Amherst with good merit aid. Can we ask BU and Northeastern University to reconsider merit? Pretty good. There's no reason that you can't use those. You're dealing with UMass Amherst, so it's the public-private type of situation again, but go ahead and ask. It can't hurt to ask. It can't hurt to explain your circumstances as far as what's going on. What's the worst thing they can do? They can say no. So I would definitely encourage you to do some work on that.
MyCap software calculated federal UFC around, looks like
8,000.
8,000, but sorry, my eyes are going out on me.
No, I saw it too. Yeah.
Student aid gov calculator projects SAI for 24-25 around 13,000. That's a huge difference. And I've used 22 tax returns with the same numbers for AGI and assets. Do you think EFC and SAI calculation has any different formula? There are definitely different formulas for the 24-25 year. It depends on your situation and your schools, I think, in certain circumstances. I would also, if you're looking at another school, go to their direct schools net cost calculator and see what they spit out. If you really want to dig into it, you can book an hour, and I think one of our experts would be able to likely drum up what the cause of the difference might be. It could be divorce, it could be home equity, it could be a lot of different things potentially, but without having more information in this question, it's going to be hard for us to tell you exactly.
Yeah, and let's also say this too. We don't even know what school we're talking about here. So if you want to, okay, hang on a second. We're talking SAI, EFC, so it's a moot point. It doesn't matter on the skull, but it's hard to know what's going on there as far as the numbers behind the scenes. I will tell you that MyCap is doing everything they can to update the software so that it takes into consideration all the variables that come into play with this stuff. What I would say is give them a little bit of grace as they're working through those details to pull it together. Because, by the way, it's a moving target, just so we're clear. There's possibility that there could be some changes that still come up on this whole thing. We move ahead.
And that brings us to a great point. Matt Carpenter, one of the founders of College Aid Pro, has started a petition on change.org regarding some of these issues that are coming out of the FAFSA Simplification Act. May be very relevant here. I'm going to go ahead and put the petition in there. You can look at it, watch his video. If you feel so moved, sign the petition. We're trying to give you college-bound families as much information as we can to make sure you can fight the good fight and pay the lowest out-of-pocket costs. And some of these issues from the FAFSA Simplification Act may be driving the differences you're seeing there. So please take a look at Matt's video.
Chuck, I'm going to let you talk through this next one.
Does pre-tax 401k roll over to a Roth 401k impact the FAFSA and count as income? So I'm assuming you've left a job, you're rolling over your 401k to an IRA, and then you're going to convert that to a Roth. If that sounds correct, then does it count as income? It's not going to. Not going to count as.
Yeah, I think what they're suggesting, which can happen, is that if sometimes when you roll something like that, it shows up on the front of the tax return. Yeah, that's definitely that. It is going to show up on your tax return, and you may want to skip the IRS automatic import of that and handle it yourself to make sure you can put some information in there. But as far as accounting as income, I guess I would need to know more about your tax situation and details. But rollovers can show up on your tax return and impact your EFC if that's the bottom line question. Yeah, it really can. But the good news is you've got the ability to tell them that's what's happening. Yep. Unless you make the mistake of using the IRS data retrieval tool and just rolling it over and not realizing that happened in that particular year. And then you're going to deal with the shock and awe that comes with your EFC being significantly higher than you thought it was going to be. And by the way, if you do that, it's impossible for you to correct the mistake without going to every single college that your student is applying to and making them aware of it. So that's a big deal. Okay, next question. You offer any information sessions specifically geared towards how to fund the college bill later in the spring? And some, you better believe it. So here's what's coming, folks. We're going to go through an entire series of webinars that are going to be coming up here, probably starting May the 1st, if not even a little bit before that, that are 100% focused on how to pay your bill, the right way to do it, and all those kinds of strategies. So get ready. Right now, we just happen to be in the thick of dealing with families that are trying to deal with all their appeals. So,
yeah, and you can often go to the college website and they'll have whatever their payment plan is offered and how many months it breaks it down to right on their website. I got into USC for computer science with. Okay, so this is the same question I think that came in just a minute or a little bit ago. National merit 3K was translated 50K, but I also got to UT.
Yeah, it's the same question again.
Yeah, it's the same question. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any advice. It is a big public school. They fill their enrollment with the top 6% of students. I think this year they took less than 12% of kids outside the top 6%. If you didn't get any merit there, I think it's going to be tough sledding to try and get some.
Next question. In my FAFSA application, I included money that was set aside in a deposit to buy a home. However, including that has resulted in a higher EFC and no financial aid. Any suggestions how I can appeal with the university? So here's the problem. If the money's sitting there on the day that you submit the financial aid form, it's money that's considered your asset. And if it has not already been spent, the only hope you've got is if there is a way that you can go and prove that money has indeed already been spent on the house and get a sympathetic financial aid officer that's willing to take that into consideration. But if it's still sitting in that account, there is no way around that. I can tell you that is money that's in your pocket that could be used for any number of things, no matter how you've got it designated in your own budget.
Great answer. All right. Private university tied for number one. I assume that's tied for their first choice. Offer my son 75% of total cost and need-based. The other top contender, a full tuition scholarship, but no need-based for room and board. What do we make of this? It's confusing. Both leave us with about $20,000 to pay a year to pay. Yeah, every school treats each case uniquely. You can try to appeal based on if you truly have need, or you can try to appeal, ask for more merit potentially. You need to make sure you're careful with the language and specific for what you're asking for. And if you can leverage one school against the other potentially, that might help you. But every appeal is unique, and you just need to build the best narrative you can based on the cards that you've been dealt.
Yeah, and just also, what I will say, don't forget that in the software that we try to give you some of those statistics. You may see that one school, when it comes to need-based financial aid, only covers, say, 25% versus another school does 85 or 90%. And not only that, but then it's a matter of, okay, of that need, what percentage of that is free money compared to other forms of financial aid, which could include loans, by the way, folks. So that absolutely can have an impact as well. It's just hard to know, what the difference is. However, you could indeed go back to that school and ask for clarification, have them tell you where the money came from and why they didn't do that. That's one of the reasons why on our software, we always go with the larger number. You'll see that. We don't combine both the need-based aid and the merit aid together into a package, because we have no idea what that final package is going to look like from the school. So we split them apart. If you've got a $20,000 merit scholarship over a $10,000 need-based grant, we're going to give you or show based on the $20,000. We're just trying to help give clarity to the possibilities of what you might get there. All right, next one. My son got into UCLA with a total grant of $20,000 and 0 Pell Grants. $3,000 SHIP grants, $3,500 university grant, $13,500 Caleb grant. In other words, looks like a lot of money. Would it help if we make an appeal? I don't know. Again, I would look at the stats. Here's the bigger question. Have you plugged this financial aid offer into the software? And did the software show you whether or not it makes sense for you to appeal or not? It's going to tell you, folks. But let me be very clear here. Chuck and I are on the same page with this. If you put in accurate information up top, the financials and the academics, then it's going to give you an accurate idea of whether or not it makes sense to appeal. If you put junk in the top, you're going to get junk out of the bottom too. So you've got to be very careful about that, that it's a true representation of your numbers, so that then you've got the ability to do it. And don't forget, with that kind of an appeal, you're obviously trying to appeal based on need. At least that's what I'm seeing, is that you're going after need. And so it's going to be totally dependent upon what do the statistics show. Look at the numbers, click on the more information tab on the school and see what pops up there.
I think if you're a California resident versus something else, it'll make a big difference too. All right. What is the process to get dollars from 529 fund? How long does it take? Does the 529 directly pay the university? So I think it's going to depend on what 529 plan you're using. My kids are with the state of Utah, that one, and I can send a check directly to the university. I would encourage you to log into your 529 portal and look at distributions and see what the portal offers. They may give you multiple choices, and you can probably choose the one that works best for you. Typically, I think the process is relatively quick and it should be pretty efficient.
Good stuff. Okay. Any other questions? What do we have here? Looks like we're out of Q&A. Let me do something here real quick for everybody, which is, let me put in here a link which gives you the ability, if you want to actually schedule individual meetings with either Chuck or I, you can choose us from the listing, but you can book a consultation with us. Remember, again, to make sure that you use that old famous discount code of OH15 if you're going to do it. No need to spend any more money than you need to. And that's specifically if you do not have the valedictorian level, and or if you've already used your valedictorian level expert consultation. That'll give you 15% off of the cost of that meeting, which means it'll drop it down to $254.15 to be exact. And again, depending upon your circumstances, it could be the very best money that you ever spent. Because I don't know about you, but if it means the difference between thousands of dollars of money that you get back by making an appeal, an effective appeal, or other things that are going on there, I do think there's some value of it. But you've got to judge that. And again, if you'd like to have either Chuck or I help you with that, we can be selected from the round robin that comes to play there.
Yep. Obviously, we both love to help anybody who's looking for help. It's what we do. It's what we love. Since there's no more questions, I'm just going to give one example. I've been helping some families here in Houston that have come in late in the process. And every appeal, the success is going to be dictated based on what you have available as leverage. This year, just recently, I had a family, good football player, 4.0 student, 34 ACT. But the reality is he's only applied to four schools, and those four schools are each unique, and two of those offer the option to play football. So he doesn't have a whole lot of flexibility, right? The odds for a successful appeal are a little bit different there. And I think what I'd encourage you is it's never too late to try, but have realistic expectations, understand the leverage you have. And certainly try to make the most of it. As a brilliant guy I know who's actually on the other side of the screens once said, you miss all the shots you don't take.
Go on, Chuck. That's exactly right, man. So go after it. Again, worst thing they can do is say no. It is not going to impact your child's ability to get accepted or into that particular school. So let me take this next one, which is, what's a waiver for a divorced family? You guys talked about it earlier. Well, it was mentioned earlier. And that's the fact that some colleges, let me put it this way. If you're in a really bad situation where it's impossible to get the financial details from the other parent, some colleges have a form. It's almost like an affidavit that you're going to be signing off on, where you're saying absolutely positively, we confirm that there's no way that the student's going to be able to get the information that they need from that other parent to help out. And they're normally going to expect you to list, why is that? Is the parent in some other country and you never hear from them? Meaning that they're totally separated from that parent at all side of things. Whatever it might be, they expect you to come up with a valid reason. They may also expect you to get additional documentation from somebody else who can actually support that.
Yep. I had a student, I had to get 3 separate letters for, one from a teacher in her high school that supported it, one from an attorney or a medical professional that would vouch that she was on her own. And so it was a little bit of a different situation, not a divorce, but that she was independent. But yeah, we had to supply 3 different letters from 3 different sources.
Yeah, and just know, again, not every school plays by the same rules when it comes to that. They may come back, like I said, with the University of Chicago, they may come back and say, oh, no, you have to do this. You have to provide this information. So
We got one last one that rolled in. It says, is it better for a student to have a joint account with a parent or open up an individual account? So I'm going to make the assumption that this is like a checking account and you're asking as it relates to EFC and SAI. And the simplest thing I would tell you is student assets are assessed at a much higher rate than parent assets. I would minimize the dollar amounts you put in a student account, whether it's individual or joint, and try to keep as much in the parent's name if you want the best outcome for your EFC or SAI. That's my personal opinion. We want to lend you to the what's best for you, not best for the university. So I hope that helps.
No, that's good. All right. That question's already been answered.
I'm wondering if I did something wrong on a couple of these that they've remained after we clicked.
I'm not sure. Hey, to be human, my friend, is all right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, not seeing any other questions here. I think we're going to wrap up a little early tonight so that we've got, okay, here's one more. Do 24, 25 applications only accept legally separated parents? Yes, they do. That's a brand new provision that's in this whole software within the FAFSA specifically, is that you have to be legally separated. In fact, not only do you have to be legally separated, you have to be living in separate homes. Married, by the way, if you're married and divorced and living in the same home, you're still married, according to the regulations. What they're doing is cracking down on families who played the game when it comes to this whole divorce thing in the past. They're trying to make it much, much more difficult to deceive the system. So don't play games, folks. We don't want to see you behind bars in striped outfits and getting nailed with a penalty, which does come with that. If you do it and they catch you, then it's a problem. Okay.
Oh, looks like we got a couple more rolling in. We've got 5 minutes, so I'll take a swing here. My senior mother lived 4.5 months with me in 2022 and is expected to live more than 6 months with me in 2023. I will claim her on her taxes for 2023. Can I include her as a dependent on the FAFSA in December? There's some very specific dependency questions on the FAFSA. I'd encourage you to read those, read the summaries. I would have to go back and double check like how long somebody has to live with you and all the requirements to answer that. But there are questions about household size, and it wouldn't surprise me that if you had a person that you're supporting full time, that would be included in the household size and potentially lower your EFC. But again, that's going to be up to you to read those dependency questions and make sure you understand them and answer them accurately.
Yeah, on this next one, you signed up for the MyCap valedictorian. Thank you for doing that. And then it looks like you're asking for how do you sign up for a consultation? Actually, it's a really good question. When you go into your MyCap platform, you're going to see in a couple of spots, it says schedule an appointment with your expert. And so you'll be able to click on that. It'll open up again to a round robin where you can then schedule that meeting. So if you're ready to do it, that's what I would suggest. Click on the schedule with an expert and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, and keep clicking through. If you come to a place where it asks you to put in a credit card, send an email to support@collegeaidpro. But I think it will let you get through without putting any payment information in.
Yeah, it really should, because again, if you did it, then that's part of the benefit to it. So I'd be shocked.
Does the EFC include the 529? Yes, it will include it. Assuming you enter it correctly, it will count it as a parent asset, which will be assessed at a lower rate than a student asset, but it is included.
Yeah, and don't forget, by the way, folks, that the one big change that's coming here is that the federal is changing to the student aid index. It's no longer going to be your expected family contribution. We've all got to get used to it, believe me. We're going to keep going back and forth on that for a little while. And then the other thing is, however, that the institutional, which is using this, we're pretty confident they're going to keep on calling it the expected family contribution. They may change their mind. You have to remember, they control the key to their piggy bank. And so they can do whatever the heck they want to when it comes to handing out their endowment funds. They may continue, for example, to offer families a multi-student discount of some sort. And in fact, there's many of us that are hoping that's going to be the case, although the prices for those schools are usually more. But if that's the case, it could be that it's less expensive, which we've promoted before. It could be less expensive to go to a private school over a public school. And this could be one of those really big cases where that becomes true. So we're just going to have to see.
Last one. We got 2 minutes left, so I'll take a swing. Your asset amount and legal marriage status on the day you file FAFSA for 2025. Yes, asset amounts are as the day of you file FAFSA. Legal marriage status on the day, I assume, yeah, you need to be, as Dan mentioned, legally separated, living in different houses. If you have questions, that information will be in the little help bubble, and you can verify it applies to your situation.
Yeah, but again, don't play games with that, folks. do everything that you can to live by the letter of the law.
Yep.
All right, Chuck, why don't you close us out tonight?
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for your questions and your participation. We love it. Take advantage of this software. Make sure you tell your friends. The sooner they start, the better off they're going to be, and the more likely they are to have a successful appeal. This software is the key to paying the least possible for college, and we think it makes a difference and gives every family the tools they need to be successful in this journey. We appreciate you coming in. Tell your friends. This is free every other Monday. Hopefully you enjoyed the time with Dan and I, and we appreciate it.
All right, everybody, have a good evening. Thank you. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks.